Welcome to Masterclass, our opportunity to hear Coach Sean Brosnan of Newbury Park High School and Coach Doug Souls of Great Oak High School in a detailed discussion of the races where their boys went head-to-head during an epic 2019 cross-country season. The first round went to Newbury Park in a record-breaking triumph at the Woodbridge Classic. The second showdown is the 41st annual Clovis Invitational, held on October the 12th at the famous Woodward Park course in Fresno. It's the same 5,000-meter layout that has been used for every California state meet since its inaugural year way back in 1987. Newbury Park hasn't raced since its record-breaking performance at Woodbridge. The Panthers' goal is to remain undefeated as a team, while their star frontrunner, Nico Young, may be ready to challenge Herman Fernandez's blistering course record. Great Oak has just returned from traveling across the country to North Carolina, where it won the competitive Race of Champions at the Great American Cross Country Festival and regained its swagger. The Wolfpack also has history on its side. They've won every championship division race at the Clovis Invitational since 2014. So here we go, clear the decks. It's rematch time. We saw how phenomenal Newbury Park was at Woodbridge. You know, it wasn't just a 1-2 guys. They had the whole squad running really well. We saw the statement race your boys delivered at Great American. Here we go, the rematch on the state meet course in mid-season. Bit of a preview for, unfortunately, not CIF or state because you're in different divisions, but definitely for NXN. So Woodward Park, leading up to it, what was that week like in terms of, was there more adrenaline, more nerves, more focus, or how was it like for you guys that week?
I think for us, obviously, you know, we knew it was going to be another rematch, probably the last time we saw them before NXN in the same race, because, you know, we're in different divisions at the state meet, but you know, we had to treat it like business as usual as far as training. And that was a talk I had to have with them. I remember, I think we did a workout Monday of that week, and I had to have the talk with them and tell them, say, listen, like we got to train through this. I'm like, everyone's training through this. You hear, I don't think people are resting for this. You guys, they had just run, Great Oak had just come from North Carolina. It was like nobody, so that was, you know, because they wanted to show that they can do it again. And I was like, listen, we will and we can, but we still had to do some work, I think, you know, that was a big part of it. So we did, and we just went into it, and it was just getting everyone ready, and our girls were just a matter of just keeping them focused.
You had a very veteran team going in. Were they chomping at the bit?
Yeah, I think the seniors especially wanted to, you know, the Chris Verdugos and the Gabe Abbases of the world wanted to kind of show that they could run better than they did at Woodbridge. And so, you know, we run really well at Woodward Park. You know, it's not a guarantee that you're going to win, but we know the course well, and we run really well there. And, you know, Sean and I talked on the Friday before the race, and we knew it was going to be another great one. And, you know, just having the opportunity to get out there and compete with a team that can beat you. You know, and that's an exciting thing, is when you got a really loaded team and you can still lose. I think that's what makes it exciting. And, you know, we got to the first 1,200 in, or the first mile in, and I'm looking at the score, and as confident as I was that we would give them a pretty good go, they were so far ahead of us that even I wondered, are we going to be able to close this gap?
So here we go in the team intros, and the groups are obviously the limelight, the national limelight this day is on these two teams right here. Newbury Park coming off their big, tremendous historic win at Woodbridge. And then when they introduced Great Oak, you'll see them smile in a second, because as they're being introduced, 2015, 2016 state champion, 2017, is just rattling them all off, and the guys realize, okay, it's showtime. And it was a heck of a setting there, being all set up. You look around, you see Jesuit right there with Matt Strangio. You see all the teams here, all the good teams from California, a few top talent from out of state as well. You see Clovis North. You see Leo Daschbach over from Highland of Arizona, also in this field. It was just a bonkers group for mid-season on a championship level course. What was the approach coming in terms of how you want to go ahead and run this course? Not so much, we'll get to the course strategy in a second, but more in terms of individual racing. Was there a strategy or tactics you wanted your kids to try and execute?
I mean, started Nico, his strategy was to take the lead and never let anyone get 10 meters from him. I said, anytime they go, I want them to wear them out. I want them to wear Leo out. That's what we wanted to do, because I think he made a point that he was coming there to try to beat Nico, and he didn't want to let that happen. I knew where Nico was at. Even with working out that week, we knew he was fine. But my guys go out hard. You know, we run this course a little different than some other teams, I think, and we like to run that first mile, and we settle in, and you like to finish. You know, it's hard to do it at this time of the season sometimes, you know, because it's October 10th, 11th, whenever it is, middle of October. But you can see my guys now. There's Colin. Colin likes to go out, and that's going to come around more next year for him, where he'll be able to stay up there. And, you know, he's always been up in the front, though. I think he's top 10 guy. So, but yeah, it's kind of how we set it up.
Were you concerned at all in the fact that you know how to run this course, but in the background, they still want to avenge that loss to Woodbridge? So there's a tendency to make sure was there any concern at all that the kids might not follow the plan to a T?
Well, I think the concern was they didn't do what I asked them to do at Woodbridge. So I'm asking them to do certain moves at certain places on this course, and if they don't make those moves, then we're going to get blown out again. So that was the big concern. But I think we were able to kind of get to a place in our training where we're a little bit more ready. And this course serves a little bit more for our style that we were training for. So it made it a little bit easier. There's some really good teams in here with Dana Hills and a lot of the other ones as well. So, you know, we knew that it wasn't going to be easy for our guys. His guys were going to a little bit more clear early in the race than ours were. But, you know, when I sat down with the kids, I said, look, they're going to hammer. They got Nico, they're going to key off of him, and they're going to be way out in front. You have to make sure that you know what you're doing to close the gap at these points throughout the race. And fortunately for me, they went when I told them to go, and they were able to close the gap to make that last mile matter.
So this was your chance to see firsthand Newbury Park, because obviously you're out of state at Woodbridge. Coming up on the half mile here, at what point did you first see them during the race? Was it the mile mark?
It's right about here.
Right about here, okay.
Yeah, I'm standing right there.
So what do you think when you see, right now you see Nico, not far behind is Jace, and then not far behind that, you see the next crew, which is Nick Goldstein, Colin
right
Solomon, and I'm trying to figure out, I don't see the next one.
Daniel
right
Appleford's pretty close.
And Danny's had a nice progress from his.
He has. He went out a little too hard in this, though. He wasn't supposed to go out that hard. I think he paid the price big time for that. But that's the thing. You get caught up in these big races. He was running with Colin. They're both sophomores. It's like that's his training partner, you know.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So that's what I yelled at my kids was they did what we wanted them to do. They went out too hard. You got them. That's what I told my kids when they went by. So I know our kids were they heard me, because you could see they were nodding their head. They knew they went out real hard. And so I think that was a little bit healthy in our kids' mind that, okay, they're going to come back to us. We need to make sure that we're pushing really hard. We knew that Nico was going to crush it. We knew that Jace was going to crush it. Colin's always going to be up there. It's, you know, the 4, 5, 6 is where we got to put a big pack in there. And
my 4, 5 paid the price. My 1, 2, 3 didn't. They went Colin, Jace, and Nico. They handled it, but it was Daniel and Nick. Nick hurt his last 400. I think a boatload of people went by him. He just did not have it. But again, it's October. You know, you got to do it.
And I think if you look at this race, how many of those guys that are up in the front that paid the price, there are a lot of guys. Nico broke a lot of guys in this race that ended up really falling back to 75th place. You know?
Jace's instructions were pick up the carnage. I said, I'm serious. I said, let Nico go, pick up the carnage. Because we knew they were going to come back. I mean, the kid right now is in front of Nico.
Yeah, that's the kid from Highland, and you see him right there. Again, he loves to go out hard. And you mentioned what your plan was to Nico, make these people pay if they, make them hurt. And so Nico responded right here. And unfortunately, Rodriguez there, he unfortunately fell back. He was part of that carnage. But a lot of these kids, and you look at it, the top 5 or 6, these are all kids that made NXN as either a team or individual. I mean, it was a loaded field, but the rest of the field that went out early, they fell apart. They blew up. This was a massacre in some in a certain sense, you know.
No, when I looked at
to the woodshed.
208 to 40, I was definitely a little worried at that point because we knew that they would come back, but I didn't know if they'd come back that much.
Right. Yeah. And then now we see. Okay. So again, we got Rodriguez in second, but then all of a sudden you got the heavy hitters: Matt Strangio from Jesuit, Leo Daschbach from Highland. I missed the next one there. I saw Isaiah Galindo.
I mean, people start dying. You get to 2K, and then people start realizing, uh-oh, what did I do?
Right.
Like, what did I do? Because you start going up that little hill in the back. It gets a little lonely back there. I think you've really got to figure out, like, you know, but you don't want to be lost, too. I mean, I think we knew who the top 3, you know, 4 were going to be in this race individually. It was just... And he was
from Pearson from Dublin, and Jace right behind him.
Yeah, Jace just picked. I think he was third, Jace, right? I think he was third. Yeah, he just picked everyone off. Yeah, it's Daniel. Daniel and Nick struggled a little.
And then you see the Great Oak right there. We saw Chris and Cole zoom by right there, begin to start moving up. There's Daniel, right? I mean, there's Tommy right there.
Yeah, that's our 7.
This was the first time we wore these new uniforms too, so I think it threw some people off looking for Great Oak because it's a color we'd never worn before.
And this was ours too. We wore black this time, and they had the same idea, I guess. It was like...
Yeah, I think the top 5 at this point in time were all, 6 of the top 7 were all kids that ended up making it to NXN, including several of the individual qualifiers. So this was kind of a, you know, baptism by fire right here.
Right.
And we see, as good as Leo Daschbach is, and of course Leo ended up, of course, running, you know, sub 4 during the COVID-19 lockdown, which was just incredible to do that with the different, you know, change of your routine. Could be a benefit because you just focus on your training and focus on the goal. But this was a nice challenge here. At one point in time, we'll talk about it as we go further on, but it seemed like there's a decent point of separation between Nico and Leo. And then Leo makes that move late, and then Nico responds.
He makes the move, but Nico's instructions were to go at 1,200. We knew he'd come back on him, and I said at 1,200 meters to go. He knew where the mark was. I said, you go. You watch him make the turn. You'll see him go. But the announcer's like, they're neck and neck. I'm like, what happened? But then when I was like, and then I saw them come out. I guess it's not neck and neck, because he said that. They said Leo, Nico, and Strangio, Matt were all neck, but they were never side by side. Nico, I said, keep them 10 meters. Just keep them. I mean, I told him, this is the hardest way to win a race. You're putting it out there. I mean, Leo had it better. He's sitting, but they wouldn't have gone out this hard.
Tim O'Rourke was announcing, and he's a legendary announcer. Even though they weren't side by side, he was setting up that finish, and the crowd was just eating it up.
I saw them pop out. I knew it was still going to be close, but because I knew Leo had one heck of a kick, but Nico actually threw down a pretty good kick when he hit that grass. He was pretty good. So, but Matt fell apart a little bit.
And then we see at this point in time Anthony Grover from J. Sarah. He has moved up into 4th and in contact really. And he was really, as you can see, he was laboring quite a bit. He was digging down, but he was working to close up that gap. And we'll see later on, he too had troubles trying to hold his pace.
Yeah, his last 800, he paid the price.
Really powerful kid too.
Yeah, Jace is quite a whip.
Jace amazes me because he seems so. It's almost like he's not trying hard. It's so fluid, so smooth. Interesting. So coming up, just past 2 miles here, and once again we'll start getting our split scores at 2.1 miles with just a mile to go as they circle back toward the finish.
Yeah, see, I usually stay at about the 1,000 to go mark. So I get them coming in, and I get them going in towards the finish. So I got to wait for those splits to see where, did we close the gap on these guys? And as it started to come in here, we definitely closed the gap into a place that we had a chance to run them down.
And you see, we just coming by with a mile to go. You've got Nico Young, Matt Strangio, Leo Daschbach, 3 kids that are, 1 kid's already broken 4, then 2 have the tools to break 4. To have those 3 kids together, or not together, but basically battling in the front of a cross-country race in mid-season was a pretty neat treat, actually. Fun for the fans, but again, a lot of these kids who got caught up in the excitement from other schools tended to pay the price.
Yeah,
see the score.
It's hard to see. Like, at this point, I don't even look at the scores. I think I saw them at the mile. I didn't look at this point. I didn't look at my phone to see what it was, and I knew it was going to be close. because they were coming on, and I could see them moving up, and especially with my 4-5 guy dropping back a little, I wasn't worried. This is where Nico makes the turn right here when it goes downhill, and he kind of took off a little, and then he kind of separated himself again, and then Leo comes back again. But the whole point was every time he tried to catch him, you just make him work, and it's a tough way to do it. But
poor Matt, he's such a tough competitor, and he refused to let go. He just latched on and kept battling in third.
Yeah, it's hard at this point. Yeah, so Jace was fourth is what it was, yeah. Because he gets
Yep. So coming up almost on no man's land. You mentioned with the K to goes, you like to hang out in a sense. Any particular spot? I may have missed it.
I let the start goes and I run to the 2K point. I actually jump on the course real quick. I go back down. No one's really over there. And then I try to get the 2 mile, and then I jump back to the finish. So I run all over the place. So that's what I did this year for both this meet and the state meet. So I'm always trying to figure out where to go on this thing. But we like the course. I like Woodward Park. It's a good course.
Good challenge, an honest course.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So we're now about almost 12 and a half minutes, so we've got basically about 2 minutes away from an incredible individual performance. We still see him right there on the lower left, Nico Young. I think Leo's probably wondering, what the heck does this guy eat?
Yeah.
Because he is just hammering right here.
Like, Nico's uniform doesn't fit. It's too big. He kept messing with the shoulder the whole time. I was getting so mad. I was like, why'd you wear that? But yeah, it's always about looking for everyone else. I usually see my top 3 come by. It was like that at NXN. You're like, where are they? Where's 4 and 5? And sometimes in these big races, it seems like 100 guys come by. You just don't know.
Yeah, 10 feels like 50.
Yeah, you're like, where are they? And it was only 15 seconds, but it seems like you waited for 2 minutes.
You probably had really high confidence in knowing what your kids would do because they had the experience. Your situation, year 3, 4, and 5 are still learning. One of them is very young in a sense. What was going through your mind as you see them late in the race and you see Grade O coming up and such?
Like I said, I was worrying for my 4 and 5. My 6, my freshman, Lex Young, he was picking guys up. He went out smart. He went out, because I told him specifically, I didn't want him going out too hard. And Tommy handled it pretty good. It was just my 4-5. They went out too hard, and I was just worried because they were getting sucked up by all the gray and these other teams. So
see, right here we see Nico basically in command. And then you will eventually see Leo close the gap, like, whoa, and then you see Nico respond one more time just to slam the door shut.
Yeah, once Nico hit the grass, he took off. He just really, we kind of talked about that. We didn't know how close it would be, but...
Well, Nico has a better kick than he gets credit for, too.
Oh, definitely. He has more speed than people say, too. As soon as he's not on the grass yet, he kind of looks, and then he hits that grass. I told him to wait a little bit, get up that grass and go, and then I think Leo realized he wasn't catching him. Right now, I think he still thought he could.
Yep. And then he kind of realized, Jesus, this guy's got another gear.
Yeah, this is where Nico turned one more gear, and then, I think he was a little bit defeated then. You could see him come across the finish. I don't know if this is the video it shows. Nico kind of just keeps walking, and Leo passes out right in front of the medics. This is the other video, yeah. But then there comes Matt. I mean, Matt, he has to run 1440s, I think, though. That's still a very...
Yeah. That was incredible to get to run that fast and be third, because I think every other year you would have won.
But this is what I start worrying about once we get to that 15-10 mark and I see all of his guys coming in as a whole team.
I think we had like a 10 or 12 second spread. So
yeah, that's the part that makes it.
If you're going to compete without a front runner, you better have a really tight spread.
So right here, you weren't at the finish line? Right here?
No. It takes me a while to waddle over there.
Was Dan at the finish?
Yeah.
Trying to count bodies and such?
They come
they ran really well. Chris and Cole ran really well to get us, I think, 7 and 8 or...
Yeah, I think Colin...
7.
Yeah, there's Colin. Colin kicked by one of your guys, I think.
Ganker, yep.
Yeah, so that's Christian Simone was our third, then Gabe and Mateo.
Yeah, this is what I was worried about, because there's your 5.
Yep.
Your 4 and 5, and then I go, where the heck is my guys? But like, Nick is right there, and there's Lex.
Right.
But... yeah, that was, and then there's my 6, and then there's my 7. Man, they did an ultimate good. Like it's kind of like NXN. It's like I mean, I think you guys beat us by more. What was it? I don't know what the final score was, by maybe 8 points, 10 points, or something.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, you have. If I had one guy run a little bit better, it could sway the whole thing.
So your 4.5 Newbury Park scores 51 at 4.5, whereas Great Oak scores 32 at 4.5, 44 at 3.45, and 51 at 2.345. So your 2 through 5 matched just their 4.5. That depth really, really stepped up and took care of business here. So we get the results here. We'll ask you first. What was your reaction this time? Because you know they rebounded, they came back. What was going through your mind?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was disappointed. I was disappointed for them. I was like kind of sad for them, you know, because halfway through the race, I thought we were going to get it. And then I realized at mile 2, because like I said, I'm at like 2K, and then I run over to mile 2, and I was like, uh-oh, they're coming on. And I saw Nick's face, and I saw, you know, like that wasn't good. And, you know, I think Lex ended up scoring for us that day, my freshman. That's crazy, you know, where he hadn't before. So it was like, you know, when you're relying on a freshman, I was a little worried. And the irony was, I think we got a course record, but we didn't win.
Yep. Because,
you know, when you have a guy who runs up in the front, it's pretty cool. So we had a consolation prize, but you know, it was like we got one, they got one. That's, you know, we knew the next time we were going to see him was NXN, because we don't race anything else together. And unfortunately, I told the guys before the race that we don't care about the merge. Like, the merge is cool to get to NXN, like, but like if we get it, they get it. It doesn't mean anything. We're not in the same race. And if we were, it would, but it wasn't. So, and
well, Nico changes a race by so much because he goes out so hard. That, you know, if we don't go out like that and Nico's pulling that race, that it's hard to compare for sure.
You know, we were going to basically touch upon that right now. So you mentioned early on, guys, they went out too fast. We got it. Then it was, you saw the score. It's like, whoa. I'm not quite so sure now. In the end, was it a bit helpful that there were so many horses in the front that a lot of the better runners from the other teams were gassed, which made it even better for your kids who ran smart, because they were passing more people who didn't run so smart from all the other teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're passing people like that, it gives you a little bit of, you know, some bonus points of energy. So the guys just felt like they were really making good moves and they were feeling good. And they did in this race what they didn't do at Woodbridge. You know, at Woodbridge, they didn't make the moves when I asked them to. And in this race, they made all the moves and they pretty much made them perfectly. I think we only had one kid with a bad race in this. So the other 6 all ran in the top 20. So that was ultimately what the goal was let's make the moves that we're supposed to make. If they still outrun us, you know, then we'll take a little bit more risks later on. But for this meet, let's measure it up and see where we're at. And I thought we ran really well. I was just really happy for the kids, because that was the first time I think that Chris Verdugo had run super well on this course. You know, Cole Sawiris-Jaeger showed his improvement from the year prior. And so, you know, we were a little bit bummed that Gabe and Mateo were a little bit further back than we would hope that they would be. But, you know, Christian Simone ran 12th. So we had 3 guys that were running really well, and we knew the other guys would slowly but surely catch up to them.
Quick question for you. Okay, so you gave us your reaction after the race, but then a half hour passes, you know, you guys see the results, you guys study the results. What was the team's psyche after that? Knowing they had a big race, a big lead, and then Great Oak raced it all.
Well, we looked at it a few ways. I looked at it and, you know, talking to the guys, I knew we had a 1-2 that was pretty dangerous. And when we thought about NXN, I said, there's going to be a lot of guys in between my 2 and their 1. That's going to help us. Unfortunately, at NXN, we didn't expect for that many to be individuals, so they don't count, and that makes it a lot harder. But we knew that was going to be an advantage for us. I looked at it as if the race was bigger, more loaded, we could have won on that day. And that was how we looked at it. And the truth is, we have to capitalize on what we were good at. We knew our 1 and 2 were good. I knew Jace and Nico Jace needed to be All-American at Nationals in order for us to win. But you know, we had a few guys, Nick and Daniel. You know, it ended up being my 6 and my 3, my 4. They're the ones who They just went out a little too hard. They need to be a little bit more conservative because we like to go out. We train to go out hard. I think we run the courses differently. They seem to come from behind on this, and we run it from the front. I think that's the philosophy that we like, and even, it might change with teams to come, but that's how we looked at it. I think we were in a good place.
Your situation, now you've had the chance to study the results. What's it feeling like? We're back in the driver's seat. What was going through your mind, and what was your discussion like with the team?
Well, I think for our kids, it was a little bit of relief. Had they blown us out at this one, I think it would have probably been the end. It's hard to get your kids mentally up a second time after you get beat by a lot. So I think it was that relief that, we know that we can beat them, we know that we can run with them, and, we're going to have to be perfect at NXN to do it, but at least we know we're capable of doing it, and that I think was the biggest thing for coming away from this meet was, we know this course well, we kind of righted the wrongs from our earlier meet, and we coming off beating arguably the two best teams in the country, so we were riding a high, and we knew we needed to kind of get back to reality and start training for the state meet.
In terms of coming out of Clovis, your training blocks differ from almost any other high school coach out there. You do a lot of your higher mileage stuff in September and October, correct?
Yes.
You more than almost any coach that I know is really planting that training for December,
right.
Late November. You're basically willing to compromise all the earlier stuff to get the base in. Goliath came back. They came back big time. They won at Clovis. You guys are in the middle of this big training block. What were you thinking as a coach in terms of, hey, we know we're still going to get better? What was going through your mind as far as the bigger picture?
Well, I knew we were going to get better, but it's helping the kids realize that too. I think the Nico, Jaces, my more experienced seniors, that they knew, but for freshmen, sophomore, which was a majority of my team, otherwise we had to really. I had to sit down, we had to focus, and we had to, discuss this. I mean, we a risky move, but I think the right move. We don't race for like a month after this. We have 4 weeks of uninterrupted training. It could be dangerous too because you can go stale and things don't go well. So we had to, we have a ways of getting through that with our training. But this is the hardest part, I think, because I think it's the most important part. But I think it sets us up for the postseason. That's always the hardest thing to do because people want us to go to these other invitationals and Mount Sac and different things, and we don't run our county meet. We run it on our JV squad. Next year, we're not even running our JV squad. We're just out completely. So, we just had to refocus. And I think the biggest thing was, I knew once we got to league, things they'd feel a little bit better. But I don't know, maybe it humbled them at the same point, because I didn't want to go into NXN thinking we had it in the bag. That wasn't the case at all.
In our next Masterclass episode, coaches Brosnan and Souls will discuss their historic battle at the 2019 Nike Cross Nationals, including their own commentary as the championship boys race progresses through Glendoveer Golf Course's 5,000-meter challenge in Portland, Oregon. Great Oaks boys have been to NXN every year since winning the national title in 2015 and placed second at the 2018 NXN meet. Newbury Park's boys were humbled at Clovis this time out, but their main goal has always been winning the national championship, trying to snag the title in their second consecutive trip to Portland. Join us next time for a breakdown of that memorable 2019 national championship race.